like, I hope I hit the right buttons, but there's always second chances.
It says live on Facebook.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Because it is still redirecting on my computer. So that's scary sometimes. That's where it gets. All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we are.
We're there. Okay, good. Because like it didn't update my. Oh, there we are. Okay. Woo! Hi, Facebook. Yay.
Hi, Facebook land.
All right. Let me find my Zoom again because I can't see us. Here we go. All right. Well, hey, everyone. We'll make this short and sweet because we have awesome. Shoot, I forgot to shut up my notifications. Hold on. No. I shut my phone off, but not this, you know. How's that? Everyone can still hear me? Yes? Yes?
I mean, I guess I have it muted so that we're not getting double.
Right. Gotcha.
I imagine everyone can hear us.
Yeah, I hope. If no one can, hopefully they'll say something before I record this whole thing. Yay. All right. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
You can hear me? Okay, that's good. I'm going to check.
We're not getting double.
Yep, we sound good on Facebook. Go us. All right. So, guys, Meggan is awesome. I'm so glad she came into my life. It's going to sound like I know, like a dating app advertisement. But but you all have not met my friend Meggan Larson yet, and I wanted to be the first to introduce her to you. She is a breakthrough and mindset coach, which she can explain a little bit more about what that means to her, but to me, it just means she's awesome, and she helps us get our I feel like my earring is digging on my microphone. She helps us get our minds right as we are healing from anything. Anything at all. We're just taking that off. As we're healing from anything, she is here to help guide with that process because she has been through so many things, and we're going to touch on some of that today. The topic of today I chose because a bunch of you have been talking to me recently about different aspects of medical trauma that you have experienced, whether you know it or not yet, through your Lyme journey. And it may just be what is holding you back from the next step in your healing. And so Meggan's going to help us understand more about that and working through that looks like, and some easy, really applicable ways that we can do that. So I'm going to turn it over to Meggan and ask her first to introduce herself in terms of what exactly breakthrough mindset coaching looks like for her.
Okay, yeah. So this is kind of a title I made up. So, you know, you probably can't Google it, but it really just encompassed everything that I do because I am certified in something called Aroma Freedom Technique, which we call AFT for short. And that just uses essential oils and just a really simple way to guide and shift people through blocks that they've been having or traumas they've experienced. And it's really just a gentle way of putting their memories back in the past where they belong versus constantly getting triggered by things that remind them because the memory is like, you know, up front and center all the time. So, which happens a lot with trauma. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, just helping people not live in that stuck place anymore and just being able to move past it and step into who they were created to be. So that's me in a nutshell.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So now we're all on the same page about that. Made up, but legit.
Right.
I love it. I love it. So tell us, so we know your background a little bit. Have you experienced medical trauma yourself? I think you told me you had. We'd love to hear whatever you would like to share with us about that and what that looked like for you maybe, and even your family, how that maybe impacted those you love.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been through medical trauma a few times, unfortunately. The first time was in 2012 when I was randomly diagnosed with cancer. And that actually started in October of 2011 when I was pregnant with my son, and I was enormous. Like, it looked like a torpedo was coming out of my stomach. And like people on the street would be like, "Oh, you're having triplets?" And I'm like, "That's rude." And so, the day of his birth, I was in excruciating pain, and super long story short, I had to get an emergency C-section. So I guess that's really trauma number one.
Right.
But then and he had to be in the NICU. They had no idea what was wrong with him at all. And so he was in there for 9 days, which felt like an eternity. And, leaving a child in the NICU when you get released from the hospital is not something I would wish on anyone. And I've gone through it twice, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
wow.
a few weeks after he was born, so he was just under 3 months old, the pain came back that I had experienced. And when I was in the hospital, after having given birth, I kept complaining to the doctors, like, it still hurts, like, this really hurts. And I was just dismissed, and I was told that I was just trying to stay in the hospital with my son for longer, which was ridiculous because I had a toddler at home that I was desperate to get to. So like, I felt really split, right? I'm
Right,
like,
right.
this is not like the Ritz.
Yes, I'd like to stay in the hospital, please. I would like to remain hospitalized. Right, right.
Right. And so that was really frustrating for me. So that was my first experience of just having doctors like fully dismiss you, not listen to you at all. And the same kind of thing happened when I had my first daughter, when I was trying to breastfeed her, but it wasn't working well because I didn't know what I was doing. And the nurse was immediately like, "Well, let's just give her a bottle." And I'm like, "Well, no, I don't." So I was having to fight for something that I shouldn't have had to fight for. And so when I was diagnosed with the cancer, they realized that it had been growing the whole pregnancy. And so
Wow.
by the time, the pain came back and I went back to the hospital, I had tumors in my lungs, spleen, and uterus. And the cancer was growing at the rate of a pregnancy. And it was carried through my body by the HCG hormone, which is why it was growing so fast. And so that was intense, to say the least. I mean,
Wow.
I was 29, and I had like 48 hours to wean my son off of breastfeeding, and he was not taking a bottle, and it was just like the whole thing was just really intense. Thankfully, my sister was still nursing her son, so she actually nursed my baby for me until we could get him onto the bottle. So
cool.
that was a relief.
So cool. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
And so then in 2014, I got pregnant again after all that mess, which, I mean, to me, I consider a miracle, because they were like, "You may never get pregnant again," especially since it was a hormonal cancer, and like really rare cancer. So I was very popular in the hospital because they were like, "Ooh, we never actually see this in person." So
Yay.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But I mean, I just chose to be positive through the whole thing. And then in 2014, I got pregnant again and developed placenta precreta, which is, for those of you who don't know, the placenta grew right through my uterus and started like fusing onto my bladder. It's the worst kind you can have. It's like placenta accreta, increta, and percreta. Percreta is the worst. So every week they would tell me all the different ways I could spontaneously die, which, helps be
So
cheerful.
helpful. Yeah.
So helpful. And they were shocked because like normally someone who would develop that has had like a ton of kids, right?
Yes.
Like this was my third and only the second C-section, or well, that hadn't even happened. So it only had one C-section. So again, that was intense. And And then he was born 7 weeks premature. And I had to leave him in the hospital in the NICU for 15 days, which again was horrible. So yes, I've been through medical trauma and
Yeah.
watched, my babies just fight for their lives basically in the NICU, which was the worst part for me because when it's happening to me, I can deal with it so much better than when it's happening to my children. My preemie at just like 5 weeks old needed to have surgery because he had an inguinal hernia. And immediately after the surgery, he wouldn't wake up from the anesthesia. And they didn't know if he would ever wake up. And so, like I consider all of that medical trauma.
Yeah.
It's like, and
Right.
it starts to feel normal. Like the hospital life starts to feel like your normal life. And then it's almost traumatic to leave that and go back to your normal life because you have to create like a new normal that doesn't involve regular hospital visits and stuff like that. So yes, all of that is medical trauma, I would say.
Wow. Yeah. I know that medical trauma as a term is subjective too, but in general, just to clarify, are you saying that like literally just about anything that especially maybe doesn't go according to plan or that is very unexpected or detrimental, increasingly detrimental to your health or psychologically confusing could all be medical trauma? Is that what you're basically saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All of it is medical trauma.
Right.
It's
Well, good.
genetic.
I wanted to make sure we said that because I had never even thought of that as like medical trauma as a term or a thing or something to be aware of and also healing from. At the same time, I was trying to physically heal I was diagnosed with Lyme like 18 years ago. So I'm only learning about this concept in my 30s. And that's why, again, I purposely wanted to share this so that people would realize, hopefully earlier than I did, that this is legit and very imperative to all aspects of healing, right? So that is quite the journey you've been on. I know that though I knew that your journey didn't specifically involve Lyme disease, but it doesn't matter. Everyone can experience any type of traumatic instance as they navigate their own health in any capacity, right? So you said that you, in a lot of instances, chose positivity as a way to proceed through the trauma and cope with it potentially. But how did you handle things initially, like as you were being hit with these traumatic events, one after another?
I have a really solid faith. So I honestly, like, it almost feels like a cop out, but I honestly just gave it all to Jesus. Like the second that doctor told us that, it was, well, he didn't even come right out and say it was cancer. Like it was obvious that it was the first person he'd ever had to give that news to. And so he was trying to like dance around the issue. But I mean, when you're in the ER and they pull you into a private room and close the door, like that's not good news. Because normally they just tell you whatever is going on with you, like out in the hallway, where everyone's standing around and you're like, oh, thanks for that. So yeah, as soon as he left us alone and gave us some privacy, my husband was like, what do you need? Like this, this is a crazy thing, the craziest thing that's ever happened to us.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, cancer is way too much for me to handle on my own. So I'm just going to give this one over to Jesus. And I just prayed that, that I would have a peace that surpassed all understanding and just like this supernatural joy. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, I was literally the happiest person in the hospital all the time. And like, I would have nurses like requesting to work with me or be on my service just because they liked me so much. And I always happened to get a private room, even though I was supposed to be in a ward because I didn't have private insurance. But they always managed to just, oh, well, the only room available was this private one for you.
Yeah.
so, so I just chose to focus on everything that was going well, because I mean it's just as easy to focus on everything that's not going well, because I mean, like, it's cancer or it's Lyme,
Mhm.
or the doctors don't believe you, or there's always something negative that you can be focusing on, but there's always something positive that you can be focusing on too, and it's absolutely a choice. And I
Mhm.
could see the difference between me and other people who were just depressed and angry and discouraged. And I mean, I got cussed out in the hospital by a woman, and because she was just angry and upset. And I later found out it was because she had had surgery and they were hoping to save her uterus and they couldn't. And she never had any kids. She kept putting it off. So
Mhm.
so she was devastated, and just took it out on me. But
Right.
because I was in such a good frame of mind, I was like, I don't know what's going on with you, but I choose to forgive you. And
Mhm.
I think honestly, that's been the biggest key to just proceeding through all of these things with positivity, is just forgiving everyone who was either a douche or just I mean, there's like, you're a
Yeah.
medical doctor. You should believe
Yeah.
your patient when they're telling you they have these symptoms. Like,
Yeah.
they're not crazy, they're not making them up.
Right.
And I wanted to go back 3 months later and find that resident doctor who had been like, you're just making this up, and be like, actually it was cancer. But I didn't know who she was, and I had already forgiven her. So
Right.
it helps me to get through these kinds of things when I just have a heart of forgiveness, because I don't know what other people are going through, and I don't want to hang on to that negativity, because it's just gonna make healing harder,
Sure.
physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure. So is that your biggest key then to moving through that forgiveness? And then how do you keep doing that when it's like so hard and you're so traumatized by what you've been through?
So forgiveness is definitely like the start for me. When it's something that is just like super traumatic, which, I can, like, going through cancer wasn't super traumatic for me. It was what it was. And it was so slow. It was over like 5 months that it just
Mhm.
became this new normal. But, leaving my children in the hospital, that was horribly
Mhm.
traumatic. And so, and the little things like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if your baby's in the NICU and you're still in the hospital, they don't care what your schedule is. So they just
Mhm.
make their own schedule. And so there were times where I wanted to go and hold my baby, and instead of waiting for me, they were like, well, we just, we're on a schedule, so we already took him out and put him back in, so you can't hold him. And I mean, that's awful.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, to just the pain of that experience. And so it's important to work through those traumatic feelings, because they don't go anywhere. Like, feelings are just stored in the body.
Right.
So you can think years later, well, of course that's not bothering me anymore because it happened so
Right.
long ago. It's still there, it's still
Mhm.
bothering you, and every time something happens that makes you feel the same way, you're just walking out the same traumatic pattern. Which is why I got certified in AFT, because that is the easiest way I know of
Right.
to just work right through the trauma, and for it not to affect you anymore, and for you to be able to just truly move on and not think about it all the time or ever, really. I
Right.
do it to myself, I do it for clients, I do it for my kids. Like, they've seen some traumatic things in the past, and I was able to just, hey, sit with me, let's do this real quick thing, and
Mhm.
then they're fine, which is
Cool.
like huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I have not done AFT, this aroma freedom technique. nearly as long as you've been doing it. It's more recent in the last few months for me, but I had been hearing about it. So I'm really glad that I gave it a try, because you're right. I can attest to that experience. It's very, it's just very eye-opening, and it's amazing how every session is different, and your body and mind can take you any which way with that. And I do think that I'm glad you brought that up, because I do think that is a really cool tool that I hadn't known about, and I wish I had along the way. Because you can do it, you're right, anytime, anywhere. You can kind of, it's not like you have to pre-plan perfectly for that kind of a thing to work through the mindset breakthrough. That's really what it is, right? A breakthrough session kind of a thing. I know, I will just let this group know that we have been so lucky to have Meggan do AFT sessions for my coaching group and some of my challenge groups and courses that I offer. So we, so far for the last couple of months, have been able to arrange monthly AFT sessions. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm just going to come out and say it. Meggan does private sessions, but she also does some really awesome group sessions like this, digitally on Zoom for us all, virtually. So we can experience that even despite COVID, despite the fact that Meggan actually lives in Canada, by the way. You don't even have to have something in person to work through, medical trauma or anything else that is blocking you physically, mentally, emotionally, and more. So, well, that's really awesome. I feel like we could chat all afternoon, but I will wrap it up for everyone's sake so we can move on and continue to process and heal as we go. But Meggan, if you would like to go ahead and drop like your link for your AFT work in this video description or in the comments, that'd be awesome, because I'm happy. Like, I am not an AFT coach or provider. I'm not trained in it, but I like to benefit from it. So I would like to extend that to others to be able to sign up with you. And if you'd like to get in on our group session happening later this month, just comment below and I'll let you know. That will be happening in our Reset on the Run, which is starting next week. So you can get in on the AFT as part of that. So Meggan, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And hopefully we'll chat with you again soon. I would like to have you back for some more discussions. I have some ideas.
Yes, I would love that.
Oh, good. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks, Meggan. Bye-bye.
Anytime. Bye.